Hi everyone, I'm Elham Sadri. This is Iranian-American Women in Law, and today we are here with Saiena Shafiezadeh. Saiena is Vice President of Iranian-American Bar Association, and she's here with us from New York. Hi Saiena, welcome to our talk show.
Hi, Elham John. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure, it's our pleasure. And I know it's around 7:30 there. You finish your work. که خسته نباشی.
Merci. شما هم همینطور.
Thanks. And tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I am currently serving as one of the vice presidents of the Iranian-American Bar Association's national board. I'm also the representative from the local chapter of New York's chapter to the national board as well. I've been involved with the IABA for many years now. I practice law in New York. I work for the New York City Commission on Human Rights. It's the local agency that works on discrimination cases that happen in New York City. The majority of our cases are about employment or housing or places of public accommodations, and we investigate and litigate those discrimination claims based on the New York City human rights law. And I've been part of this group, part of ELNA, for a few months now, and it's been great. It's such a, I think, a wonderful partnership with IABA and ELNA, and just really excited to see all the great things you guys are doing and all the things that you will be working on in the future.
Thank you, Saiena John, and we are so happy and grateful for the support and partnership that we have with IABA. It's definitely amazing, and we're excited for more in future.
Are we?
Right. So, how did you first hear about IABA? When did you start that?
So I actually started IABA back when I was in law school. I believe it was my second year of law school back in 2014. And I kind of stumbled upon IABA and got involved through the mentorship program. And actually got set up with a mentor that was a past president of the IABA. He previously had served as a president, Nima Milaniya, and I was very interested in international law and national criminal law and human rights law more specifically, and he was serving at The Hague at the time, and it was a really interesting opportunity for me. I didn't even know such an organization existed up to that point. And then the position of a student director on the national board opened up, and I applied for it, and I served in that position for a few years, and then when I graduated, I got involved with the local chapters regionally, but stayed involved with the national board, and until now that I serve in the position of vice president. I've been in this position for about 3 years now, and so I've been involved with IAB in different capacities.
Sorry.
No worries.
Go ahead.
I've been involved in different capacities with the local chapters, but mostly with the national board. But really what kind of drew me to IABA was the mentorship program and the resources that were available to law students at a time. Of course, over the years, it's still a fairly new organization. This year is the 20th anniversary of the IABA. So it has grown substantially. We have 8 chapters across the nation and growing, but there's still a lot of changes that's happened. For example, we have launched the National Iranian-American Law Students Association, NAILSA for short, and that was really the idea for that organization, was to really expand on some of the resources that I was able to take advantage of when I was in law school, such as the mentorship program, and also other resources that we have available, like networking events, and obviously our annual conference, which is one of the biggest events we have every year.
Yes, and this year, for the first time, IABA organized a virtual annual conference, and you were running that. How was it? How
It
was the
was an
experience?
interesting experience. I learned a lot because I think the virtual sphere is new to all of us. And we were not sure how we were going to really transition all the great content and speakers and all the potential that we have in our organization and just the Iranian American legal community to a virtual space. And thanks to all the people involved, yourself included, and all the hard work from everyone. I think it was a very successful virtual conference. From what I've heard from other people, we've had a variety of very diverse group of speakers
Right.
from different backgrounds. We've had some legal topics that were discussed, some substantive topics. We also really made it into a Nowruz celebration, which was something we hadn't done before. And really made sure that it coincides with the fact that it was the 20th anniversary of IABA. It was the year 1400. And also, one of the things that was really special for me from this conference was the fact that we were able to include all the different local chapters. Because, of course, when it's an in person conference, it's usually in one part of the country. And we try to rotate it between the East Coast and the West Coast because we have chapters all the way from Northern California to DC to New York and LA. So we've never really had the chance to include all the chapters and really showcase the very diverse and successful community that we have at IABA. And that's something that I think if it weren't a virtual event, might have not happened. But we are very much hoping that we can continue this type of chapter participation in the next conferences, even if they're in person. Hopefully they will be.
Hopefully, yes. For next year, we are so excited to see everyone again in person. Haven't had any event with our NorCal chapter, which is the one that I am. It's my local chapter, and we're missing everyone.
I know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're hoping we can do some kind of an outdoor event this summer or early fall with the New York chapter, and everyone's
Oh,
very much
that's
looking
amazing.
forward to it. So hopefully, we can
Right.
slowly get back to the in-person events.
Right. Saiena, there are being involved in IABA in both national and state level require a lot of work. In addition to what you're doing in your job, in your career, and in New York, I know it's like long hours and tough work. How do you handle that many hours, and then on top of it, working as a volunteer in these organizations like IABA?
It can be tricky sometimes, to be honest, but it's really about, I think, organization and preparation. IABA is, we have such a great community that I think we can really bounce ideas off each other. We can really, everybody's really available to help out and pitch in if anybody needs anything. Like I mentioned with the conference, everybody was so amazing, from my co-vice president to president to all the local chapter representatives that I was involved with. But it's really about just kind of making sure that there's a good organization in place. And I try to manage my time as best as I can. Sometimes it does take long hours, especially when you're working with a national organization with multiple time zones. It's kind of hard to really dedicate that time after a long day's work. But because the mission of IABA is so important to me as an Iranian-American lawyer, I think it is so crucial for us to have an organization that is active, that is really a great representation to the community, and really seeing all the great work that we do, kind of feeling that energy back from the community, I think is also something that really keeps us going. For example, when everything happened with the travel ban, all the advocacy that grew out of that unfortunate situation was very inspiring, and really just brought the whole community together and really showed us that we need even more time dedicated to the mission of IABA and making sure that we're working towards it. But it can be tough. Some weeks are busier than others. Like any other volunteer organization, we go through our times that some weeks and months that are super busy, like leading up to the national conference, and then some months that are not as busy. So it helps to kind of have that expectation and also manage the time accordingly to make sure that you kind of don't get too worn out with all the responsibilities, and you want to still stay involved.
Right. So that's hard, being working full time, staying away from family, and being involved in such an organization. And it should bring a lot of value to the organization that is part of our personal mission, in addition to IABA or professional organization that we are involved. My question is that how do you think minority female lawyers can improve leadership in legal profession?
I think getting involved with a volunteer organization, or not even a volunteer one, is a great step. Over my legal career, and starting while I was in law school and afterwards, I have been involved with lots of different organizations that have given me the opportunity to serve in leadership roles. I think, especially in industries and in sectors where it's traditionally male dominated, it's even more important for female attorneys to get involved. Taking initiative really is the first step. If I hadn't applied for that student director position, I would have not be here serving on the national board after so many years, since 2014. So it's really important to take initiative. And I understand that it can be scary, and there's a lot of hesitation to get involved because it's not easy, kind of not seeing minority female attorneys represented and wanting to be in those positions. But I really do think that organizations that support diversity and support growth for different groups in the community are really essential. In addition to the IABA, while I was in law school and afterwards, I've always been involved with my local bar associations, whether it was the city bar association or county bar associations. I'm currently involved with a few committees on the New York City Bar Association, and that's also been really helpful to make sure that I have the opportunity to first get familiar with all the different spaces that are available, and are also just serving in leadership roles, or just being part of a community, being in the committees on issues that are important to me beyond my job and my career at work. And in addition to taking initiative, I think it's also important to really organize. I think us women lawyers can really help each other out. So really, the mentorship programs, I've benefited immensely from my mentors, especially female mentors. And that's something that I'm really hoping to, and I'm working on it right now, giving back to the younger generation, students that are currently in law school right now. I did a fellowship right after I graduated from law school, and that fellowship had a mentorship program that was only for women. It was called the Women in International Law Mentorship Program. And it was really nice to kind of have a space where young people can really get familiar with all the women that are in leadership positions, because a lot of the times people don't know how many minority women actually serve in a lot of leadership positions, and how many opportunities are available. So really getting to know those opportunities, taking initiative, and having a community, belonging to a community that supports that kind of growth, I think are very important.
Right, I agree with you. And you said about initiating, joining this organization, not being scared. And I agree with you. I want to ask a question, but first we got a comment here, and I want to discuss that one from Facebook. I can't see who posted, but we will see it later on the page. So Facebook user is asking, how do you balance work with your outside works that you are passionate about?
So I think, in addition to what I mentioned about really time management and prioritizing, it's also important to really set boundaries. I know that, especially as lawyers, it is something that we are expected to work long hours, and we're not supposed to kind of get involved with other things. I remember in law school, they told us just study, don't worry about getting involved with anything else, which I don't know if I love that advice. I think it's setting boundaries, both at work and also for all the passions that someone might have are very important to make sure that you're really allocating that time. I personally try to really visualize what my priorities are and what are the different work streams I'm working on, whether that's at work or also outside of work. So I think it's really helped me to kind of set those boundaries and understand that I have to kind of make time for also things that I'm passionate about. Also, being creative helps. So whether it's kind of coming up with a schedule that I'm going to end at a certain time with my job and then maybe do something else for a little bit and then really allocating. I know, for example, I have to work another 3 hours or so at night, just kind of allocating that time afterwards, after I do something that I'm passionate about, because it really, I think they really balance each other out. You can't really just work without having the outside passions or vice versa. So prioritizing and setting those boundaries is important. I also think, and of course, this is something that when people are more senior in positions and more comfortable at the companies or law firms or organizations they work at, really working with supervisors and mentors about how to really manage time best and what is the best way to get involved, and really setting those boundaries has been something that's been really helpful for me. And but it is, I don't want to say that it's not, it is difficult. It's something, it's definitely a balance that I'm constantly working on. And of course, as you get more involved with an organization or as you get more comfortable and confident with your job, I think it's easier to kind of strike that balance. But it's important to constantly kind of reevaluate and making sure to dedicate enough time to both work and also things that we're passionate about.
Right. You're saying that as it goes and we work more, getting used to our work and also um, our work with the organization, it gets easier. But something that I wanted to say is that not to say yes to any position or any situation, just reevaluate
Absolutely.
how that's gonna help you personally, professionally, and the time allocation impact of it on your personal life.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's so important and so crucial. Really just taking some time to really thinking about the effects of a yes answer will have on a decision. And that's something that I think times what comes with time and experience, but it's so crucial. Absolutely.
Right. So, you said some of those, but I'm gonna ask specifically about challenges of minority female lawyers, including Iranian, but generally, in legal profession.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I mentioned, I think it's so hard being in spaces where there aren't a lot of people, especially in leadership roles, that look like us, that have the same background, the same trajectory. I think it's so easy to compare yourself to people in leadership and think that, well, I don't have the same kind of background or I didn't get there the same way. And not having that representation has, I think can be very difficult. Also, I think as what I've noticed with a lot of my colleagues is that female lawyers in general, and of course, if you're a female lawyer from a minority background, there's even less representation. It might sometimes be a little scary to want to speak up or take initiative, like I mentioned. That's something that I struggled with a lot when I was just starting out in law school and after law school. And just not having that representation is something that can be very challenging for a lot of female attorneys. Also, not contributing to projects in a meaningful way. I've had situations where a lot of colleagues worked the same amount of time on a case as their male colleague, but just didn't get the recognition. So I think that's something that comes really should come from supervisors and partners and managers that can really dedicate space for recognition of all the work that female attorneys put in to the work and not just kind of, and really elevate them, because I think that is a reassurance that is needed in any profession, especially in the legal profession, because it does tend to be traditionally male dominated. And as we are getting more and more, we're getting more familiar with all the amazing work that women are doing, especially minority women, especially Iranian-American women in law. There's a wonderful group of Iranian-American women who are judges, who are professors, who are partners in law firms in leadership positions. I think really just seeing that those people are in those spaces and it's possible to be in those spaces, and really recognizing them is really helpful for younger attorneys who are either recent graduates or working as in early in their career, to make sure that they are seeing that kind of representation, I think is key.
Yeah, that's right. And I think following the career road of those people who, depending on our practice and profession, we want to have as a role model and see their path. Where did they start? Where did they go? Where did they work? How long? And just get an idea, talking to them in those events and see how they got there. That's a lot. That's helpful.
Absolutely. And I would also say for recent graduates or people early in their career, and just women lawyers, to not be afraid to take risks when it comes to choosing a certain trajectory or a certain path for their legal careers. I've always known before I even got to law school that I wanted to work in the public interest, human rights space. And that was a little bit of a non-traditional type route than working for a law firm or working in transactional or litigation in a more traditional sense. And there were times that I was kind of afraid because I wasn't seeing a lot of people that were doing the things that I'm interested in. But what really helped was kind of expanding my network and going outside of my really law school bubble to see what other opportunities are available. And exactly like you said, just following the career trajectory of people who are in the positions that I was interested in at the time, who I looked up to, was really helpful. So I think also it can be scary to take the non-traditional route, and thankfully more and more in the past few years, those types of positions have become more known, and people are learning more about them. But I think it's important to not be afraid to take that route and kind of take a risk a little bit, as scary as it might be.
But it comes with award.
Yes.
It's so rewarding when you take a risk and do something that is different from others.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you talked about work and your what you're doing outside work to keep balance with volunteer work, with work and your personal life. But what are you doing outside work? What are your hobbies?
I like to read as much as I can. I haven't been, the pandemic has been great. It's been kind of a wonderful opportunity to be able to catch up on a lot of different books that I've been interested in that have nothing to do with the legal world, which is a nice break. I also really enjoy painting. That's something that I've been doing for many years, just for myself. I was involved with it from a very young age, and it's really very therapeutic for me. It's really helps to get creative in a very different way than what I do every day. So that's been a wonderful escape, and just wonderful to really have the opportunity to, again, during the pandemic, really work on my painting more. I also really like cooking. Just trying out different recipes for family and friends has been really
What's your favorite Persian dish?
Gorma sabzi. I'm very typical in that sense, but it really is. It's just the perfect combination of everything. You have the meats, the herbs, all wonderful flavor. So yeah, I've been trying out some Persian dishes, some more made non-traditional Persian dishes, or I've been also trying different regions. My family's from the north of Iran, so I've been trying some recipes from there. So it's been great. Again, the pandemic has, with all of its challenges and all of the hard year we've had, kind of, it's nice to kind of get back to some of the things that I personally didn't have that much time for before, such as cooking and painting and reading more. So
Talking about cooking Persian food, how long have you moved to the US for?
yeah, so I started coming to the US when I was about 10 or 11 years old, but I permanently started school in the US when I was in high school here. So I, around now, I think it's been about 15 years or so. So I did a good significant chunk of schooling in Iran, mostly elementary school and middle school, and then moved here, and then did undergrad and law school here.
Would that impact on your um, career in law, not being and not going to school here from start, like coming just from high school? I know there are a lot of young lawyers who are coming here for university, and it's much more challenging. I want to see how it was for you when you came in high school.
Yeah, it was massively impactful, because especially I think when it comes to law, there are lots of people that come from Iran specifically that work in science or mathematics and more science-based majors, if you will. And I am seeing it more and more now in the past few years, but law is not as common for a lot of people who are immigrating later in life to pursue. And just English as a second language, I think, is a challenge for anyone, but especially in a profession where there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of reading, and it's so crucial to have a very good grasp of the language to be able to be a successful lawyer. I think we all know that lawyers, a lawyer that has good writing skills is a more successful lawyer, and that's something that I'm constantly working on. So it was definitely challenging and it was difficult, but just because I've always really been interested in law from a very young age, I always kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. So I never thought that there might be another option or that I might not be able to get to what I want to do. But I was also very much aware of the fact that it was challenging. I think
Mhm.
it really comes out. I was having a conversation about this with some other, with some friends who had also immigrated at a later age, and they were saying, especially people that finish a lot of their schooling in Iran and then move to the US to get their LLM or just kind of later in life, a lot of the standardized testing can be very challenging because the setup of the standardized test is different. And also, it takes longer for somebody in a second language to kind of comprehend and really make the connection in all the questions. So it unfortunately puts a lot of students who are very intelligent and talented in their own language at a disadvantage when it comes to English. But I also think that I'm thankful for my schooling in Iran. I'm thankful for that background because it really gave me a perspective from the outside, if you will, and really gave me a broader sense of what I wanted to do with my career, and also um, knowing a different language really gives that um, advantage to a lot of students at the same time to really be able to think more creatively about a lot of the cases, to be able to also communicate differently with a lot of the community. And I think that my time in Iran has very much really um, inspired me to get involved with an organization like the IABA to really kind of keep that background going and kind of really try to stay informed in both languages if I can, and just working in making sure that that gap is bridged for sure. So it was very helpful. But I very much recognize how challenging it can be, coming and kind of starting school in a totally foreign language. But I think at the end, it really puts students at an advantage in a lot of the ways, because they can, like I said, have a more broad perspective on the profession and on the languages.
Right. And we're seeing more LLM graduates from Iran getting involved with IABA, and it's very interesting, and I hope we get more.
Absolutely.
Yes. And we see that coming in later age is not a barrier to get involved, pass the bar exam, of course, and then practice and getting involved in IABA or any other professional organization.
Absolutely. This kind of goes back to that whole risk-taking conversation that we were having. A lot of people are hesitant, and I'm always so excited when I meet an LLM student that finished most of the schooling in Iran, because I think just that different type of legal system is so valuable. That I think a lot of students don't think about, that U.S. graduates, U.S. law graduates don't have that kind of knowledge of a different legal system and how it can work in a different setting. So I think that is such a advantage that a lot of LLM students have. And I just want them to not be afraid of the bar exam. If nobody likes the bar exam, but
one time in your lifetime.
Yeah, and just really take that risk. And again, getting involved with an organization like the IABA, where we have such a wide range of backgrounds and so many different attorneys who are working in different sectors who are LLM graduates, I think would be very useful for new graduates or even LLM students.
Right. Thank you, Saiena John. Yeah, it was very interesting, and I was excited for our conversation to see you as vice president of IABA, being a successful lawyer, sharing your story and journey with us and everyone else. Do you have anything to say?
Just thank you so much. I really love this series. I think there's such a need for series such as this one, and I'm so glad that I see you working in the space and putting your time. We're so grateful for it, and I'm really hoping that we can continue these types of conversations, really empowering Iranian-American lawyers, especially Iranian-American women attorneys, and really kind of expanding our community, expanding our networks. And just thank you so much for having me on. It's been really fun.
That was my pleasure, Saiena John. And yeah, I just add this. I like working with women, for women, and I'm trying to be a better host.
You're a great host.
I was supposed to be a lawyer, not hosting a talk show, but I'm doing.
But you're great at it. You are great at it
every time.
No, you're doing a wonderful job. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. It was nice talking to you here, and thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.